My husband, Sam, and I love to use words like never and always in reference to our future family, as in, our kids will never talk back to us like that. Or, let's just always take the kids with us. Our lives don't have to change to be parents. We were pretty good parents back before we had kids. Before I had kids, I was also an adamant yes man. I was down for any adventure, any time, lacking any normal fear of consequences, and I mostly blame my mother for this because she loved me too much, and I ended up with this inflated sense of self, and that's why I tend to think I can do anything. Like take some kids on a plane trip who aren't my kids. My older sister used to live in Hawaii, and every summer she brought her 3 young children to Idaho for an extended visit. And one particular summer, she went back to Hawaii a month before her kids, who stayed with our parents for a grandma and papa vacation. When the month was over, my sister offered me a free round-trip ticket to Hawaii to deliver her children back home to her. And I said, sure, why not? I didn't have kids yet, but it couldn't be that hard to travel with them. Surprisingly, the details of transporting a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an 18-month-old from Boise, Idaho to Honolulu, Hawaii didn't faze me because I was an idiot. No, not just an idiot, I was a very confident idiot. My life is basically a series of messy events decided by positive certainty in myself and others. That resounding yes perched on my lips for any request or invitation or idea pitched to me no matter the path ahead. Which is how I found myself 35,000 feet in the air, covered in vomit, and still 4 hours away from landing on an island. It all started in San Francisco. We got through security in Boise, and then the quick flight to California built my confidence even higher. This wasn't easy, but it wasn't the hardest thing I'd ever done either. I didn't know why my siblings thought parenting was so hard. We were fine. We landed in San Francisco. I paid way too much for a couple of gourmet hot dogs and juice boxes, and then the 5 of us boarded for Honolulu. We entered the plane well before the other passengers who were wisely traveling with Sam's children. As I hooked the baby into his car seat and settled the 2 girls in their seats on the empty plane, my 4-year-old niece, Abby, said, "Aunt Jessie, my tummy hurts." Thinking it was just motion sickness, I told her to take a drink of water and relax, and before I could finish my sentence, she threw up. I recognized a certain $9 hot dog over her shirt and made a mental note to never feed my children processed meat. That's not true, they ate jerky tonight, so they'd be quiet on the way to the babysitter. Glad she was getting it out of her system before anyone else even boarded the plane, I dug around in her backpack for the extra outfit my sister had told me to pack for each of them, folded in a Ziploc bag so that I would have some place to put dirty clothes as well. We shoved ourselves into the lavatory and I helped Abby change clothes, I washed her hands and I pulled her hair into a ponytail. Crisis averted. The other passengers soon shuffled down the aisles and prepared themselves for the long flight over the ocean. The 3 kids and I had most of the middle block of seats of the middle of the plane with 1 other passenger on the aisle seat at the end of our row. And as the plane taxied down the runway and the flight attendants rehearsed their safety instructions, Abby told me that her stomach still hurt. And her face, which had been pale before, was now ashen. I reassured her and myself that it was just motion sickness and said she'd feel better if she could fall asleep. She agreed and then she threw up again. All over her clothes, her other set of clothes, because if you remember, she had already thrown up a few minutes ago and now I didn't have any clothes for her to change into. So I directed her back towards a tiny bathroom where a flight attendant stopped me. "You can't use the restroom right now, we're taking off." Right, but she just threw up all over herself. I gestured to my crying niece. The flight attendant reluctantly let me pass and asked us to get buckled up as quickly as possible and not stand up again unnecessarily. I assured her we wouldn't. Which was true, sort of, because I consider standing up to clean vomit off my jeans a necessity. A necessity that I would be doing for the next 4 hours straight, because Abby, she didn't have motion sickness. Abby had the stomach flu. And when a 4-year-old has a stomach flu, they don't know where to puke. They don't know when they're going to puke. They just twitch in a panic and turn their gaping, puking mouth toward whatever they're looking at, and they throw up, right then and there. This continued for 4 hours and 52 minutes, projectile vomiting that I alone was in charge of handling. At a certain point, I was simply out of resources. Abby had puked on everything we brought. backpacks, stuffed animals, books, DVD players. Since I couldn't even change her clothes anymore, at one point I hung my head and sidled on up to the flight attendant station to ask for a large trash bag instead of the small ones they'd been giving me, which was, again, reluctantly handed to me with a, "We don't usually give these out." Oh, sure. Well, I don't usually spend my afternoon in a metal flying machine winging its way over the Pacific while a little girl gets sick in my lap every 20 minutes, so looks like we're all making a few sacrifices today. And this is where things got low. I stood in the aisle in front of my fellow passengers, who held their breath against the stink of regurgitated gourmet fair food, and fashioned a billowing plastic parka out of an airline garbage bag, which I then made Abby wear over herself for the remainder of the trip. Like some sort of a vomit condom, really. She didn't want to wear it. In fact, we were both crying as I pulled it over her head. But I would be damned if I had to rinse out her Dora the Explorer t-shirt one more time in the tuna fish can size sink of the airplane bathroom. And here's the thing about a flight to Hawaii. Everyone is going to Hawaii. It's not like we were all on our way to Cincinnati. We were going to a tropical island, but instead of the buzz of excited travelers, our plane was tense. Because you can only watch a little kid throw up so many times before you actually start feeling more sorry for yourself. Like, why me? Why this flight? Why this seat? Am I going to start throwing up now? Is this some sort of a plague situation where we all get quarantined in this oxygen-deprived box and end up on the news as a new colony of lepers? Am I in hell? And I can't say I wasn't feeling real sorry for myself towards the end of all this either. I also, for some reason, really didn't want people thinking I was the mother in this situation. As though the constant vomiting could somehow have been my fault. At one point, an older woman walking back to her seat leaned in and whispered to me, "Oh, honey, you're a saint." I gripped her arm as she tried to walk away and whispered back, "These aren't even my kids." In case you're wondering, I did spend the first 2 days on the island throwing up from the flu. Then the trip was over and I flew home by myself, which was more of a luxury than anyone ever could have explained to me prior to the moment when I tore armholes in a garbage bag and made my niece wear it like a poncho. I'd like to say that I learned a lesson from the trip, that I now know my limits and I think twice before agreeing to an offer, but I can't say that because it's not true. If anything, that trip from hell became a lifelong litmus test for what I can do. Because if I managed someone else's 3 young children by myself on a trip across the ocean, lubricated by a steady stream of tears and puke, surely there's nothing too hard for me to do. The peril of the yes man is that even the failed yeses become reason for more assurance. As in, yeah, I can do that. What's worse than what I've already done? Yes is where my stories are born. Saying yes is the first step in finding out what may come. It's a spring in my knees as I jump into the water. Saying yes is exciting, but there will always be a payment. Sometimes it's a free trip to Hawaii, sometimes it's someone else's puke in my hair. There aren't any experiences I can take without forfeiting something to the time and energy of the yes, as well as accepting whatever consequences are born from my labor, good or bad. As I age, I'm wary of those consequences, not only for my own sake, but because the sake of so many others is tied up in my decisions. I was 24 when I took that trip to Hawaii. I'm 30 now. I'm tired, and I have 3 tiny kids of my own. And what I've noticed about living with a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old is that I say no a lot. Like, all day. No, do not jump off the top of the couch. No, do not rub yogurt in your hair. No, do not wearing a crushed red velvet Christmas dress to the park. It's 97 degrees outside. And I find it difficult to remain the voice of reason and discipline in my home when I never used to reason with or discipline myself. It's like I'm raising 4 people, and one of them is me. Having kids was the ultimate yes. It was a leap into a story I could never write for myself without them in my life. They are the beauty. They are the good. They are the plot twist now. But also, they've given me a million reasons to say no to them and to myself, which is hard and exhausting. My no, as it turns out, can be just as important as my yes. Sometimes even more so, because the no creates space and time, gives room for another story that was waiting for me, and I never would have found it if I jumped in the water without a second thought. The perils of the yes man belong to the foolhardy, those of us willing to be made a fool for the chance at something new and great. There's wisdom in the no. There's life in the yes. I think my truest self exists somewhere in the balance between them, perched high on the cliff, but with my eyes on the water.